Okay. Yes, I'm right. Can you all hear me all right? Yes, good, in the back? Good. Beautiful. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Muse on such a lovely Sunday afternoon. Super happy to have you. I'm Susan Deutsch. I'm the program manager here. And before we get into things, a little bit of housekeeping. Exits are in the front where you came in and in the back. Restrooms are in the back to the left. And if you haven't already, please take a moment to take out your phone and silence it. If you have already, please take it out and silence it anyway, just in case. If you haven't been here before, if you're unfamiliar with the Muse, we are a creative writing center. We're based physically here, and we also have classes that are online or hybrid, as well as classes in the building for all genres, all age levels, all experience levels. We have events such as this one with our lovely teachers and Muse friends. And we also have a stellar youth program that is completely free, and our youth fellowship applications have just opened for 2023. I've been told to remind everybody it's a wonderful program for 8 sophomores or juniors in the Hampton Roads area, so definitely check that out if you have any creative teens in your life. All right, so the event program, quick rundown. Kindra is going to read. I will stop talking soon, I promise. We'll do a quick Q&A, and then there are some refreshments out, but if you've met Kindra, you will maybe know that there is an entire other beautiful spread in the kitchen that will be coming up after. In addition to book signings and books for purchase up here. So I'm going to now turn to the woman of the hour. I think a lot of you know Kindra in various capacities, and if you aren't already familiar with what an amazing poet she is, you are about to find out. In addition to being such a wonderful poet, and also an unwavering advocate for the community and the environment in her role as executive director of the Elizabeth River Trail, I have personally found that Kindra is an incredible teacher. I've been honored to take a few classes with her here at the Muse, and she's one of those really special people who kind of uplifts everyone around her without even trying, and is always fully present in the classroom and set in and out of the classroom. She's one of those people who I think is maybe the most empathetic person that I've ever met. She truly feels everything. She allows herself to be moved and creates a space where other people can have that vulnerability too. Can really hold a space for her students, and I think for everyone she comes into contact with. So it's an absolute honor to call her a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. It's my pleasure to welcome.
Thank you, Susan. That's the third time I've cried in the last 10 minutes. Former students, just students in general, really. Yeah, I love you all. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your Sunday, carving out a part of your Sunday for poetry, which can sometimes be a hard sell, but not by the size of this room. Like, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to Michael, to Susan, and to the staff of the Muse for having this place, for letting this place be just a sanctuary and a refuge, and what it is, just a place to be creative and to be empathetic and to share our words. And so I thank you. And thank you for everyone that has come out. I'm really moved by the students that I see and the friends that I see and the family. So thank you, and I will try to keep it together. So take a sip of tea and we'll get started. Okay. So I am really thrilled to share this collection with you all. This collection is called Teaching a Wild Thing. The majority of the poems in this collection were written during 2020, so difficult year. But not only were we dealing with the global pandemic and everything that was going on, politically and socially during that time, I personally was at a really interesting time in my life during that pandemic. I spent almost every single day of 2020 in the woods. I was in a different time in my life. I took a big leap and was in the Virginia Service and Conservation Corps, serving in Virginia state parks, doing things I had never dreamed I would be doing, hanging out with snakes and turtles, and I was in swamps. It was a lot of outdoor time. So the wildness of that time really comes across in this book. So I will start with the actually opening poem of the collection, which sets a little bit of the tone. It's called Imagine. I was a key, an attic token, a hanging ribbon, cast off slumped with ancient dolls. I was holy thighs, a strawberry swelling, mint leaves floating in peach tea, a May chestnut, eyes spun, pinballs wild, a flicker of fairies revealed in flame. I found myself split, a box in another box in a U-Haul. There's a reason we scatter like salt. Every time I want to burn away, I remember I was taught to save things. Collection is about saving things, so that theme will come up again and again. Part of 2020, I was in the woods all the time. In 2019, I embarked on a personal journey to hike all the state parks in Virginia. At that time, there were 38 of them. There are now 42, so I'm missing one on the list. I need to get back out to Southwest Virginia to get that one. But some of those parks appear in this collection, and here's one of them. Thoughts while standing atop Lover's Leap Trail, Natural Tunnel, Virginia. Despite the 3 miles of protective chain link fence I have followed on this narrow cliff climb, I still imagine people scaling it nimbly, perching on the slim rail and jumping into the yawning cavern below like the legend, the warring tribes, the love that couldn't be in life. What are things that you hear before you see? The trees shake their arms before you feel the breeze that moved them. The owls screech like wailing children as the sun slips behind the carved out tunnel. Leaves click and curl to cup the coming rain. They are already changing color. What other ways is dying so beautiful? There is water flowing somewhere because I hear it splash makes it so. On the caution sign that warns not to throw objects off the cliff or to lean over, decades of lovers have carved their initials, J and T, forever, no matter what. And Abby, who has returned to this very spot 4 times, etched her name and marked the date, stopped coming 5 years ago. And I'm so sad at the missing of her and the low bellowing of the cows in a meadow that must be on the other side of this void. And the story the Red Stone Diner waitress told me over my Friday night fish fry, that Vivian, who lived across the railroad tracks, jumped from the tunnel ledge last fall, and no one ever found the whole note she took with her. It was after her 3rd husband died of the cancer. He was the one, she'd said, loved her better than anyone. I'm gonna shout out to Catherine Fletcher, who I see, because she helped me end that poem. Thank you, Catherine. All right. So if you've read any of my poetry, you know that I have an obsession with figs. as does another poet. I know at least one other poet in this room that has a little bit of a love, maybe obsession with figs. Figs are beautiful, beautiful things. So I have several fig poems in this collection, and this is figure 3. These are instructions for joy. I would encourage you, if not urge you, to eat a fig plucked from a summer tree, warmed by August light, washed by moon glow and sweet bliss relief of drought's last gasp. Don't think of the wasp the fig can't live without, entering the small passage to lay its eggs, or the offspring tunneling pollen out, broken winged and spent. Think of the sweet burst as a reverse blossom, a flower that has bloomed on your tongue alone. I'm lucky enough to have married a man that has a fig tree in the backyard. I get a lot of inspiration from that. Okay. This poem's title drops right into the poem. Waiting. In the complete women's care office, babies line the walls in gilded picture frames, the siblings in the field at golden hour, backlit by the sun, awash in something that must be halo light. And the portrait of the triplets, all captured in various stages of movement. I breathe and see their eyes blink, their mouths move. And all the infants swaddled in pink and blue, one newborn splayed in a giant scallop shell, raw and quivering. They call my name, take me to a room without children on the wall, just gulls lifting into the sky one by one. Hey. We'll continue with that theme. This is called Absence. When I tuck the son I don't have into his bed at night, I find acorns and pine cones in his sheets, little bits of day he has carried with him into dreams, and I'll collect them on a shelf and label them as artifacts, evidence of loss. The daughter I don't have has spent hours searching for shark's teeth on the beach, her wet hair sticking to her cheek. She'll shed sand from her skin that I'll catch in a jam jar, put in the cabinet to glisten in the dark. For weeks, I have heard heavy equipment groaning at the edge of the neighborhood, coming from the pool that for the past few summers has become quiet, emptied of cookouts and swim lessons, birthday parties and sunbathers. The same pool my husband swam in as a child. When our house was his grandparents' home, and he'd spend summers lazing, feet dangling in the deep end, popsicle sticky in his hand. On my daily walks, I have taken to detouring past the pool. See, it is closing for good, a community vote to make it disappear. The lifeguard seat, pool house and playground dismantled swing by swing. The rusty fence, old eyesore, ripped out in pieces. A puzzle back in a box. Each day's progress is a grave in reverse. The pool filled in with dirt. Somewhere in our backyard, my love buried a bird. When he was 10, it crashed into the sunroom windows. 3 days later, he dug it up to see if it had rose again. Imagine his confusion over resurrection. I told him I buried Barbie heads under a tree in my yard, hoping to sprout new dolls that looked like me. I don't say I imagine what our children look like. I have given up on sleep and slip out at night, I step easily over caution tape and walk towards what would have been the edge of the deep end. All is soft and level. Was there ever a hole in this ground? Pretend my feet are dangling, cool and swinging in the water, the jump, the splash. I lay pressed on the newly turned soil, my face even with grass seedlings pushing to life, and I don't know if I'm floating or drowning. These days, it's hard to tell. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. So what were some things that happened in 2020? We got to spend some more time at home, right? Maybe some more time observing our homes a little bit, and definitely some time maybe in stillness and observation. So here's a couple of those poems. Linger. I have spent the day in one place, watching the shadows of the porch rail slats shift from right to left, letting the side of my face sunburn in this treetop perch. Bird song becomes language I feel for with the tip of my tongue. Forgotten words that tickle my throat like feathers, so that by the time I am back in shadow, I have learned how to fly, how to hunt, how to feed by small mouthfuls the hungriest needs. Lost. Lately, I have found myself so deep in thought, I have lost minutes of time unaccounted for, like tonight as I was slicing tomatoes for dinner, cutting sweet corn off in neat rows and arranging basil on a plate like little festive flags. I thought about how vibrant summer food is, how it takes so little effort to make it look like I have tried to nourish someone instead of simply making do with what I have. Yesterday, I lost the better part of an hour massaging kale for dinner. I had read it makes it easier to digest, and life has seemed so hard to swallow. It is a small chore to make our salad more tender. Somewhere in that lost time, I forgot about my mom, masked and alone, boarding a plane where she promises she won't be arm to breast, cheek to shoulder, with the travelers around her glowing feverishly close. I'll read just a couple more. So since it's fall, it's the time of year, right, where we're spending our weekends. If your neighborhood is anything like mine, there's like leaf blowers going constantly. So this is what my advice to you all. This is just a reminder that as the leaves fall, be still. Let them be homes for bees who haven't actually gone anywhere, but spend the winter in nests their mothers made, essential for shelter, for bumblebee queens, butterflies, and moths. Leave the leaves for lady beetles to live perfectly placed to attack aphids when our spring garden grows. Leave the logs and wood piles, the knotty bumps our abode to dozens of praying mantis whose hunger you'll want come summer. And just in case the legend is true, they are signs of an angel come to visit you, or the compass to point a lost child home. Leave them, simply tell guests Excuse my mess. I'm creating habitats. Just a couple more. This is called humbled. I have just learned and wanted to share that if you are feeling melancholy, you can now see what the Hubble telescope held for a second in its lens on your birthday. And it is as magnificent as you might imagine. A collision between two spiral galaxies that began 700 million years ago, caught in all its scattered light, awkward gold shimmer, a crash of a candle on a pillow of frosting, wished out from your breath, you small thing. I'm so blessed to have, I really am. I'm so blessed to have friends and family and students, and I'm just really honored that you all took time out of your day. Thank you.
We love Kindra.
All right, so maybe I'll do two more, if that's okay. So I'll read the poem that the title of this collection came from. So, Origins. 1. At the Whaling Museum in Newport, wandering through rooms of scrimshaw, carved bones of whales, teeth and tusk, ribs and cartilage illuminated by soft exhibit light, glowing mermaids, billowing sails, and lost fishermen, so many versions of the female form, memory carved in solitude. I learn whale is the plank alongside a wooden ship that protects the hull from damage. It is also the ridge of fabric on my corduroy pants, the swooshing sound of my legs rubbing together. 2. I teach my students in Beijing about mammals and birds. They are both warm-blooded, though birds lay eggs and mammals have live births. We work again and again on whale, how it is a mammal, not cold-blooded like fish that also live in the sea. They pronounce it well, and we've just learned that a well is where you get water. When I say, well done, both thumbs enthusiastically up, that is a different kind of well. 3. The summer we all watched the one whale, how she carried her dead calf on her back for 17 days and more than 1,000 miles in a tour of grief while we all looked on in wonder, a solidarity of loss. After this year of thrashing, it is confirmed this whale is pregnant again. Researchers have tracked her pod by satellite. This seems a miracle. Every time I see our planet from space, it makes me believe in a reverse Pangea, that the continents might slowly move toward each other the way a cello leans on the shoulder of a musician. 4. In the church basements of my childhood, every funeral farewell lunch featured shining Jell-O salads. They glistened like stained glass, fruit suspended in molds of rings and braids, all jiggling companionably next to a jellied tuna salad in the shape of a whale. 5. My students watch me cry on our video screen. Whale, I say. Well done, whale. 6. I have spent a year of days slowly teaching a wild thing to eat from my hand, only to find it dead. Matted fur, broken paw. I wail to the ground, to the clouds, to the sea. Well, well, how wail is a high-pitched cry of pain. It's what we do when we are mourning, a parade of grief we wake to each morning. We hold awake for the dead. This language is impossible. Thank you. All right, I'll close with this poem, and I hope it's a cure for you all too when you're feeling blue, a cure for blue. I have taken to filling the house with flowers so that every room has some life. In the golden light of sunrise, I will walk east to west through my shoebox house and watch as petals turn to watercolors, casting prisms, shifting red to yellow, orange to salmon on the old grain of these floors. So for one moment of each day, I can step a bare toe into that light and bathe in joy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So how does this Q&A work, Susan? Where are you?
If you've got a question, raise your hand and say it loud, I guess.
I'm ready for questions. Okay, Bill.
Yeah, so I'd like to ask a question aside from the book. Could you tell people, please, about your ERT poetry project?
Oh, yes. Okay, thanks for bringing it up. So I have a dual identity, right? So I record my creative life under my maiden name, Kindra McDonald, but in my other life, I'm Kindra Green, Executive Director of the Elizabeth River Trail Foundation, and I'm really proud to get to serve in that role. So the Elizabeth River Trail is a 10.5-mile urban waterfront trail here in Norfolk. And it's very urban. So it's not a trail like the trails that I was on through state parks. It is very urban. So in that environment, we try to bring, a very diverse 28 neighborhoods together and bring public art to the trail and history and education and environmental efforts. So last year during National Poetry Month in April, I just couldn't let the month go in my role as executive director without honoring it in some way. So piggybacking on what the city of Norfolk did, where they did their Poetry on the Pavement project, and they asked Norfolk residents or Muse students or anybody who had interaction with the state of Norfolk to submit poems inspired by the city. I thought, I'm going to ask our trail users to submit poems inspired by the trail. And I was unbelievably surprised to receive a whole bunch of trail-inspired poems. And it was a gift to sort through those. And I selected, a team of us selected 16 poems that really told the story of the trail. And they have been painted on the Elizabeth River Trail. They're currently in the West Ghent section in Jeff Robertson Park. So I know Catherine Fletcher has a poem. Michael Candlewall has a poem. I'm sure I'm missing other people in this room. Yes, CJ has a poem. Yes. So please go check it out. Thank you for asking about that. Yeah, anyway, I will use my position to bring poetry to the public as much as possible. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, Morgan. Morgan is the amazing assistant director of the Elizabeth River Trail. Very grateful for her. Yes, Morgan.
And not, okay. Anyways, my question is, how do I put this? I see how hard you work on a day-to-day basis, and I'm like, where does she have time to write this down? So when you go to write your thoughts down, is it words that come immediately to your head, or is it emotion first that you then interpret into words?
That is a really great question. Yeah.
I have that question too.
That's a really great question. So I think that For me, poetry comes to me in images first. So I will kind of have an image in my mind that I want to try to put words to. So that might be the initial impulse, but I think it's certainly a way to process for me emotions, especially, again, a lot of this book was written during 2020, so very, socially difficult time, and, so in order for me to process some of that, it's the first place I turn to. I have my whole life in order to process emotions. So I guess maybe the answer to that question is I process emotionally through writing. And then in terms of finding time, this is something that I will tell every student. If you're a student of mine, you know that I always end our last class by saying, like, you have to make a time for your art. You have to make a time for your craft. And it's hard to do it sometimes, but no one else is going to do it for you, and it's very important to me. And I know that I'm a better person. I'm a better wife. I know my husband's hiding somewhere. It's not easy to be married to a poet, and Susan said that I feel everything. He's smiling, and I do. I feel everything, the good and the bad. So if I didn't write, like, I would come out in different ways, not good ways. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I try to make time for it. Yes, LCJ, yes.
And the pieces for what made it into the book, did they fall into place, or did you have difficulty deciding what would go in and how to order it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually did really struggle with this collection. It went through several different it went through a couple different title changes as a collection and several different formatting changes. So I have a lot more of the park pieces that didn't make it into this collection. So as I put it together, a theme emerged, which surprised me. And it was, I don't have kids, and I never really, like, we don't have kids, but, like, oddly enough, like, a lot of my poems are about that, and it was weird that they were emerging like that. So I don't know, it just kind of came together that way. So in answer to your question, it was challenging. I ended up pulling some of the other things, and they'll be placed somewhere else, I hope. Yeah. Putting together a collection is hard. Yes, Karen, hi.
Hi, can you tell us about the cover art?
Oh my gosh. So my husband, who's hiding in the back, Adam Green, he did the cover art for the book. He also did the cover art for 2 collections ago, Fossils. Sometimes if I just have a very specific vision, I knew I wanted a specific color palette. I knew I wanted, like, the idea of shadow puppetry, and I had created some like the when you do this on the wall, like, I had created that, and then he put this together, and I was just like, yes, and so it was fun. Yeah. Any other questions? All right.
Going along with
Yes,
that,
Cindy.
talk about the title, because I'm sure there's many layers.
Yes, yeah, thank you. There are. So the poem Origins had the line "teaching a wild thing" in it, and again, that there's a lot of the human interaction with the natural world and how they collide in the book. And I ended up having to teach myself a lot over the past couple of years. So there was a lot of just personal self-discovery on the teaching of the wild thing. So it is a multi-layer title. Thank you. Always learning, right? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Right. Last call. All right. Well, I just want to thank the Muse again. Thank you all for coming out. I want to thank my family. They're always super, super supportive of me. my family here from, that I don't get to see, they're from Michigan. I capitalized on my nephew and his bride's baby shower yesterday. All the family from out of town came to celebrate them, and I was like, book lunch. So thank you, and thank you for my husband who puts up with me, and Louisa, I need to shout out her because she wrote the most amazing blurb on this book, and she's just an incredible champion for the poetry community and has always supported my words, and yay, and just my former students, and I could go on and on. Thank you all for being here. There's going to be refreshments, so please help yourselves. Stick around. I make cookies. You know I make cookies. Thank you all.